Cecilia's here, and we're joined by a familiar face here. Familiar voice, I should say, either way. We have from the old school freedomizers will remember Liberty Underground, the Moretti Report. We have Joanne Moretti here, and she has a big announcement.
I do. Hey, Proof. Hey, Cecilia, thank you very much for inviting me on. Yep, next Wednesday, I'm coming back to Freedomizer, and my whole crew is coming with me. And I wanted to let everybody know that we're thrilled and we look forward to it. It's been a couple of years, and, we've done a couple of other things, but I'm psyched to be back, and it was really nice to hear from you the other night, too. We have a new name for our show. Hope you like it, because we did a lot of research on it. We're going to call it Zone 13. We're going to drop them already all together. Zone 13 is actually really significant because that's the FEMA code name for the whole United States.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
I didn't either, but my great co-host, Scott Fararello, brought that up to me. It's also my old address and his old football number, too, 13. But Zone 13 is the national code for the FEMA zone, United States. So we thought that we would call it that. And we're gonna offer a mix of really fast-paced breaking news and the usual current events, national interests, politics, medical and financial updates, all that stuff. We've expanded our correspondence. We have medical correspondents. We even have a couple of microbiologists on our team. We have all kinds of researchers, everything from financial gurus to our Middle East correspondents. My great co-host, Scott, he is an amazing graphics guy. There is no graphic he can't do. He's also a musician. We're going to use one of his own original recordings for our intro, so we don't have to worry about copyright infringements or any of that. So we're pulling it all together. Tonight I'll get a commercial ready. I found my microphone, and I downloaded that program, Audacity, that Cheryl suggested. So we're going to be on at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. That's Wednesday, October 15th, 1 week from tonight. And all you freedomizers, we hope to see you there.
Wonderful. I can't wait.
Oh, you sounded really good. I was enjoying what you were saying, Cecilia. A lot of people don't make the correlation between good and bad and blood moons and the things that we've all been told and pulling it all together into a comprehensible way, and you did it. You laid it out pretty good. So I wanted to give you a high five there.
Thank you.
Hey, you guys want to do a little bit of news?
Sure. You want to start us off?
Yeah, I brought a couple of bullet notes here. I want to talk about Ebola for a minute.
Okay.
If you guys want to talk about that, because that first guy,
that's fine.
Duncan, he died, today. Matter of fact, Arut Shiva on Sunday had said that he died, but then they retracted and said that he was fighting for his life. Well, the CDC came out today and said that he had died. This Ebola, our government is absolutely out of their minds. I heard Obama say we're not going to close the border, and his big responsibility was to make sure that he was, keeping Africa safe. His exact words are, but let's keep in mind that as we speak, there are children in the streets dying of this disease, thousands of them. And so obviously my first job is to make sure that we're taking care of the American people, but we have a larger role than that. We also have an obligation to make sure that those African children and their families are safe. We ultimately have to do for their public health what's the right thing. Does he remember that he was elected by the people of the United States and that we pay his salary? This guy seems to think he's king of the world.
Now that he's a lame duck president, he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah. And then you got guys like Kerry. He come out today, and he said that we have to keep the borders open. Do you know what that means? That means that he's admitting that the border is open.
Right.
Didn't Napolitano tell us that the border was more secure? Here's what he said. He said, we need to quickly move and contain the spread of Ebola. We need the borders to remain open. Is that an oxymoron right there? How would you contain something?
Well, the head of the Center for Disease Control said that if we stopped these flights coming in from Liberia, that we would have even more Ebola, and I don't understand how that would work.
Yeah.
Would Ebola send a postcard or something, or do they send themselves through UPS and then you open it and all of a sudden you have it? I don't understand.
Yeah, closing the border is going to spread the virus. Is that kind of like closing the car window is going to get you wet because it's raining out? If you close the window, you're not going to get wet, fool.
Well, I say it's equivalent to what Joe Biden said years ago, which is the reason why the unemployment rate is so high is that there's too many jobs.
Ah, yeah, that makes sense. Too many jobs. I'll tell you what, they keep this up, they're going to get their conspiracy wish. I hear people saying, oh, yeah, that's a conspiracy, all this depopulation. Well, the government emergency manager today said that this Ebola outbreak is being conducted on purpose and it violates all protocols. How many mistakes does it take before you realize it's not a mistake at all? They released this guy from the hospital after knowing that he was in Liberia. This judge, what's his name, Clay something or other, he made those policemen and other people go into that, as well as himself, go into that apartment. And then this judge actually drove that family, Duncan's family, to a gated community, to a private home. And he wasn't wearing any protection. Now, today, one of the deputies, his name is Koenig, he is right now in quarantine showing signs of Ebola. They tell us that this is not airborne, but that deputy didn't have any contact with that victim. That guy was already in the hospital when the detective went to the house to serve papers with the judge. He didn't touch anything in the house. So if it spread with contact, how did a person with no contact get it? And, when they're talking about this conspiracy stuff, there's a scientist. His name is Eric Pianka. He just got an award and a standing ovation for saying that Ebola would be a wonderful thing, a pandemic would be a good thing, and it's a way to get rid of 90 million people. Then, of course, you have another one, Brzezinski, who is an advisor and has been since the old man Bush days. He says it's easier to kill 1 million people than to control 1 million people. Then, of course, you got Bill Gates. Now, these are not conspiracy theorists. These are actual people who I'm giving you quotes from. Bill Gates, he said that he wanted to sterilize millions with vaccines. Or look at Margaret Sanger. She started the Negro Project. She wanted to eliminate blacks and poor babies with the help of good old Justice Ginsburg. A couple of years ago, Ginsburg was asked by the Harvard Crimson why she voted yes on Roe versus Wade, and she said she thought it was to get rid of people we don't want too many of. So when you hear people like us saying, I wonder if they're trying to kill us all off, and somebody else jumps down your throat and says, oh, yeah, that's a conspiracy theory. Well, I got it from Eric Pianka and Brzezinski and Gates, How is the conspiracy theorist when it's all your people telling us this? There's too many accidents for this to be an accident right now. Then they tell us that they're going to screen at the airport now. Now, I saw a photograph of a guy. He had a glove on his hand, but his arm was bare. He was holding this thermo gun, checking people's temperature as they walk through the airport. All you have to do is take a couple Tylenols before you leave for the airport. You're not going to have a fever. So how is that going to protect us? How is not stopping flights going to protect us? Why are they more concerned with the money in the African economy than they are with the health and well-being of the American people? Like I said, he thinks he's king of the world. Our Constitution, the first words start, we the people of the United States. Not we the people of the world, not we the people of Europe or the planet or UN or anything else. We the people of the United States. So don't you think we should be worried about the United States first?
Well,
I want to help everyone.
On one important point to Ebola, and sorry for cutting you off, Cecilia, I just wanted to mention the fact that there's a patent for this Ebola strain, which means if there's a patent that someone invented this particular strain.
Exactly.
Because if there's no patent, then nobody bought it. And am I correct that Monsanto owns the patent for Ebola, or am I wrong on that? Because
actually, it's the CDC. The CDC has the patent on Ebola, and it's a specific strain. Now, if this was a disease that they had discovered, like Alzheimer's was named after Alzheimer, then there would be a copyright on it, not a patent. A patent is for something that you create, you invent. So this was a created germ, at least that one that's patented. I'm not saying this strain. But, you know, they got this company ZMapp, and that's one of the trial drugs that they were using. They did that over in Liberia. That doctor that he said that he had given the last dose of that serum to his nurse over there, and he had taken blood from a 14-year-old boy who had survived Ebola. But the boy had already had the ZMapp too. That was showing progress, but that's going to take 2 more months. Then they got another one, I don't know, Philo something or other, that they're working on. And I think that's the one that they gave this guy, Duncan. That's another thing about Duncan. Now you got people like Sharpton and Jesse Jackson coming out and saying the way the guy was treated, it was racist. And if we close our borders, it's going to be racist. How? How is that racist? Because they're African? Well, we really didn't pick where that disease was going to strike. And that disease strikes everybody. You know, and if there's any white people or Asian people or Hispanic people over there in Liberia, stop them too. You know, that's all you can say about that. It's ridiculous to even try to put anything that with a political correct stigma on this disease, because it will affect everybody, blacks and whites alike. And for anybody to try to separate us by race at a time like this, they all need a boot in the keister, as far as I'm concerned. You know, it's time for everybody to say, hey, you know, that's a little played out right now, and it doesn't apply to this case, and knock it off. You know, we got to start getting over this and talking to each other, or we're all going to be in a world of hurt.
Good point, Joanne. It's like it's more important to be politically correct than to save an entire nation of 350 million people from disease.
Right. Yeah, so are we going to have, like, special treatment for blacks and whites and Hispanics and Native Americans and Asians or whatever? Come on, it doesn't make sense anymore. You know, and it's about time this country grew up. You know, the frat party's over, folks. It's been a long 6 years of tyranny, and it's time to wake up. I got a couple other stories here, too, speaking of tyranny, that
Go ahead.
Put up. Well, you know, I wanted to talk about this Ebola just a little bit more, though. I told you about the Texas sheriff, but the stepdaughter of this guy, Duncan, was cleared on Friday to go back to work. Now, they wouldn't even start showing symptoms until yesterday. But somebody from the CDC called that girl and told her it's okay for her to go back to work. And she's a nurse's aide. She was smarter than that and said, no, I think I'm going to wait out the 21 days. Her kids can't even go back to school until the 17th, but they told her that it was okay for her to go back, and her uncle was only in the hospital for a week. Not uncle, stepfather, rather, Duncan. And 8 people in the European Union are confirmed with Ebola. In Spain, there's a nurse. As a matter of fact, she's a nurse's assistant, rather. She was taking care of that priest that died of Ebola. Well, they just euthanized her dog, too. She's in deep weeds, and there's 8 confirmed cases out there. So they're lying. Don't you, you know, I mean, it's time to start putting an end to these flights out of there. When you contain it, it means you keep it all in one place, right?
Yeah.
Well, how are you going to contain it if you're letting everybody get on planes and travel around the world?
Exactly.
Now, there's an Ebola detainee. Let me read this to you. This is from Wisconsin. It just came out just before we went on air. It's from WITI. The Kenosha County Jail is taking precautions, monitoring a detainee for signs of the Ebola virus. Local officials are in close contact with the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. The Kenosha County Sheriff's Office confirmed with Fox News that at 1 a.m. on Wednesday, October 8th, a woman came into the jail from O'Hare International Airport in Chicago. As officials screened her, they realized she's from Liberia, a country hit hot with the Ebola outbreak. They say the woman was brought in as a federal immigration detainee until she can be deported. It's important to note, so far this person has not shown any signs of being infected, but the jail is taking precautions. They took this woman off right out of the airport and put her in jail. Is that the wisest place to put her?
Definitely not.
Just throw her into holding for a little while until she can be deported. It doesn't say what she did to get deported. I mean, who knows? She might have been just a tourist, or she may have lied. They didn't give any details. However, she's in jail right now. They don't have isolation in jail. They have, like a little medical unit, but that's not isolation. So putting her in with a bunch of inmates is probably not the best plan. This enterovirus. The Ebola, we only have a couple of cases. Most of them were brought here intentionally. But this enterovirus is in now 49 states. And it's already killed a couple of people. 5 children have died. Now, here's another one. In the places where this enterovirus first began, those are the places where these illegal alien children, the foreign national children who came over the border unaccompanied, that's where they were placed. This is where it started, and they have a huge outbreak going on down in Guatemala right now, too. I saw that just before we went over onto air.
Joanne, now, I am curious, Joanne, are they still bringing kids across the border? We've heard nothing over the last few months.
Yes, of course they are. They're not going to stop until they get to 65,000. I think they're at 49,000 now. They told everybody in advance. They even put out job applications on government.gov for people to accompany these minors and for ground transport for them, for 65,000 children. They put that out 8 months before this influx of children. Let's talk about those children for a second. They have to be absolute geniuses. Child prodigies, if you ask me. These children, 4-year-old babies, 5-year-olds, made it all the way 1,700 miles from Guatemala through Mexico, dodged the federales, made it up and over mountains, through streams, over another border, dodged the feds to the United States. They got to be great hikers, swimmers, and read maps, GPS. I mean, they got to be one hell of a kid. Or they never touched the border, and they were brought here. They were flown in. Mm-hmm. Up in Massachusetts, 7 plane loads of Somali immigrants. Now, Somalia is in Africa. How'd they get here? Swim? I mean, they got to be great swimmers, too. 7 plane loads were dropped off at Hanscom Air Force Base in Bedford, Massachusetts. They were resettled in a little town called Lynn and the little surrounding towns up there. They are having really bad problems already, and the enterovirus is all over the place up there, too, by the way. But it's not just Somalis now. They've brought in a lot of Nigerians, and, they got like a whole Muslim enclave up there now from Africa, West and Central Africa. Now, Michigan, they brought in a lot of Muslims, too, Syrians, Pakistanis. Down along the border, there's a lot of Guatemalans, Hondurans. I mean, there's more other than Mexicans down there. And then the Mexican president says that it's racist for us to be anti-illegal immigrant. Are you kidding me? Can you imagine? Does anybody know what Mexico's illegal immigration plan is? Jail. That's what their plan is. You don't own property if you're an illegal. You don't go to Mexico and just walk around. You get arrested and you go to jail for that. But he's screaming that it's the anti-illegal immigration. I'm not anti-immigrant. I love immigrants, legal ones. But every nation has a right to its sovereignty. I mean, if you don't have any borders, you might as well just be a hallway. You know, we're a hallway in between Mexico and Canada. There's no border. Kerry admitted it today. We got to keep the border open. But I thought the border was secure.
Partnership has been signed for a while now.
Yeah.
So what is your outlook on this whole, why are they bringing so many children into this country? What is your theory?
Obama is an ideologist. All right, if you read his book, Dreams from My Father, he's an ideologue. He is very anti-colonialist. He has a real bad vendetta against the United States and anything Western. He hates us. Our military, you know, and he's all about politics, too. Our military doesn't vote usually with the liberals. So, I mean, he's getting them all killed any way he can. He thinks that we owe the rest of the world, that we somehow robbed everybody. You know, he says that we raped Africa of their minerals and all that. No, we didn't. They sold us this stuff. We paid them for it. I mean, we didn't just go in there and start beating on people and taking their stuff. No. And we got contracts over there. You know, their governments might have robbed them, but the United States didn't rob anybody. You know, they think that wealth is a finite entity. You can create wealth, and then you can create more wealth and more wealth. You know, it's not like there's $100 and everybody has to split it. You can have 100, you can have 100, you can have 10, 20, 30, 3,000 if you want. You know, depending on what you invest or put into it or work for, depends on what your income is going to be. You know, there are poor countries, but those poor countries are also poorly run. We don't have to be the welfare department for the world. Right now, 46% of this country is receiving some sort of a government benefit, whether it's a food stamp or a medical, you know, insurance or a subsidy, or some sort of a government entity is taken by 46%. That means 54% are covering the load. How is 54% of the country going to cover 46% for a very long time? And a lot of the people in the middle class, you know, they pay taxes out of their check, but at the end of the year they get the taxes back. It's actually the top 6% of the country are paying the top 90% of taxes. So how do people who pay no taxes at all start screaming to other people to pay their fair share? Don't you think a fair tax would be better? Everybody pays the same rate. Our tax system is the most discriminatory thing around. You know, say if you have a 10% flat tax, everybody pays 10%. If you make $100, you pay $10. If you make $1 million, you pay $100,000. Everybody's paying 10% across the board. Our corporate tax rate, I was just talking about Mexico and the open border, right? Most of our big countries have moved down to Mexico. They have a 12% corporate tax rate. Ours is 39%. Why wouldn't you go to Mexico? Do you know, right over the border into Mexico, there is a huge deep water port that is almost complete. Do you know what that's going to do to San Francisco, San Diego, Portland, all those deep water ports, the longshoremen, those jobs? You know, the ships, all they got to do is stop in Mexico. You know, we already have NAFTA, so those Mexican trucks are going to bring whatever was on those ships up into the United States. We're going to lose a bunch more jobs because we've priced ourselves out. And our taxes, who the hell wants to do business in the United States when you can go to Canada and save 12% and go down to Mexico and pay 12% and still get your products into the United States? And you would think that our politicians would be making better deals than that, don't you? They're even selling our land to China, selling the desert to Chinese solar companies and paying them to do it. And we've got to be out of our mind to allow all of this to happen. And this is kind of the stuff that we talk about on my show. Goodness.
Hey, I wanted to bring up a topic here, staying with Ebola for a second. You showed me an article a few days ago in regards to melatonin
Yes.
having to do with Ebola, and I was wondering if you can give us an overview on that.
Well, I'm not really the expert. My colleague JoJo is. Matter of fact, JoJo told me to tell Proof I said hi. So JoJo says
hi. JoJo.
She knows about all these things. The melatonin now I've been hearing about, it boosts your immune system, and it quells the virus from actually getting into your system. It slows it down somehow. I also have some friends who say you're supposed to stay away from papayas, like bananas, pineapple, papaya, kiwi, things like that. There's something in those that accelerate the replication.
Wow. Wait,
see, me being a smoothie guy, I don't know how to react to that.
Yeah, okay, so bananas, kiwis, papayas, pineapples. Okay, so what kind of family are those in?
I don't know. They're in a papaya family, I guess, what she said. I'll read you what she said in a second. I'll pull it up. But
right.
she thinks that there's something in there. She's a microbiologist, by the way, and she's been working on this, so she's actually knows what she's doing. But she feels that the type of fruit, whatever's in the fruit, and I'll tell you about it, but she feels that those things will accelerate the replication of the virus. What this virus does is you have layers of an immune system. The first part of your system is closest to the skin, and anything tries to get in there, then your skin will react. You know, you'll get like pus and a blister and things like that. That's your immune system trying to fight this, whatever's attacking it. Well, this Ebola reacts so fast and takes out that first barrier that the rest of your immune system can't keep up. It can't replicate itself to fight the disease because the first layers are, they were supposed to take time, and they were just taken out immediately before the second layer and third layer and fourth layer get a chance to, work their way in there. So what you have to do is you have to protect that first layer. And I don't know, JoJo was saying something about essential oils too, both taking them in and putting them on you as a barrier.
Which one specifically did she mention, if any?
I don't know. She didn't tell me. I'm trying to look here for the filovirus. Let's see, list-based virus.
Well, I have a rough idea of what I would use as an essential oil, but I don't know how correct I am.
What would you use?
I would be mixing frankincense with coriander because coriander is a good detoxer, and I would also try to do anything that's in the immunity building. Also, try lemon oil, which is going to up your pH level. Even if it means going to all alkaline water, it just means doing a lot of things that's going to up the pH level in your body. If you can keep your body somewhere around a 9 or even an 8, the Ebola won't have a chance to rest inside you because a fungus or a virus cannot live in a body with high alkaline.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Very nice.
All right, my friend says she's been doing, she says you stay away from pineapple, papaya, and banana, and stay way away from any supplement containing bromelain. Proteases are very similar and seem to feed and facilitate replication of filoviruses like Ebola. So stay away from bromelain and proteases.
Bromelain?
Bromelain. And proteases, Proteases. And she said that they facilitate the replication of filoviruses like Ebola. And, you have to understand how viruses attach and attack your cells. And they do go right after that first layer of immune system. Now, what boosts immune system, too, is garlic, onions, scallion, any kind of shallots, things like that. You know, when you do your smoothies, if you do a nice vegetable smoothie, use lots of broccoli and garlic. Did you ever see a sick
Actually, I was going to say I used one of my favorite ingredients today, which Cecilia's had in person at my house, parsley.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Parsley's good for a lot of things. A lot of things. It's even good for mucus. If you've got a bad cold, something in the parsley strips the mucus from you and breaks it up, and you'll be able to get rid of it. It won't fill your lungs.
Well, that's why I would add parsley to the list of things that you need to be putting more into your body right now.
Mhm. Yeah. Let's see. JoJo just sent me something. She said the Ebola virus is a master of evading the body's natural defenses. It blocks the signaling to cells called neutrophils, which are white blood cells that are in charge of raising the alarm. All right, so it blocks your white cells. Ooh, that's dangerous. You need white cells. Ebola will infect immune cells.
That's basically like having no immune system.
Right. It takes it right out. I wonder if those AIDS cocktail would work. Yeah, including the liver, kidney, spleen, and brain. Each time one of the cells is infected with the Ebola virus and bursts, spilling out its content, the damage and presence of the virus particles activates molecules called cytoxins. And in a healthy body, these cytoxins are responsible for provoking an inflammatory response. Oh, so that's it. You can't make white cells. You can't come up with an inflammatory response. You know, if you get bit by a mosquito, you get that bump. That's an inflammatory response. Your body doesn't have the capability to do that. Ebola attacks that. So you got to get that immune system boosted before you ever get Ebola. You better be healthy before you get it.
Right, and one other thing I would say that I would add to my arsenal would be ginger. Fresh ginger is an anti-inflammatory.
Yeah. Wow. Case of an Ebola patient, an overwhelming release of cytoxins. That's what's causing the flu-like symptoms. Do you know cytoxin is a cancer treatment? When my son was sick, cytoxin was one of the poisons that they gave him in his chemotherapy regimen. And it does. It attacks the immune system. It suppresses it. Wow. I just learned something new, too. Thank you, JoJo. Yeah, so, wow. What takes poisons out of you? Charcoals and stuff, right?
Activated charcoal. You can also use cilantro to a lesser extent.
Yeah. Cilantro you got to be careful with because that can poison you, too.
Uh-huh.
It's absolutely delicious and very beneficial, but in small amounts of that. But, yeah, cilantro would work. But, massive doses of vitamin C isn't going to help you. Your body will use what it needs, and then it'll just expel the rest. And you'll probably have strong urine and get blisters, too. So don't overdose on vitamin C, but get enough. Sunshine, too. But, stay away from the papayas for a while. You don't want to activate it either. I love every one of those, too. I'm a pineapple and banana person, but if you get Ebola, just stay away from those. But they'll help you out before you get it. There's plenty of potassium in bananas and lots of nitrogen and stuff in apples and pineapple, and you got vitamin C in pineapple. So those are the type of things that you should already have in you before you even get sick. That will help with any other virus, too. But once you get a virus like that, stay away from those until you're healthy. And that came straight from some microbiologists, a husband and wife team that are our colleagues. And, they know what they're talking about. They're very smart.
Hey, Joanne, you have one of your biggest fans is with us.
Oh, yeah? Who's that?
Hello?
Oh, go ahead.
Hello. Hey, there she is. Hey, you.
Look, I'm going to have to save you, Joanne. You're just messing this up so bad.
All right. Well, you're the medical. Ladies and
I'm
gentlemen,
the medical
this is
correspondent.
our medical correspondent, JoJo.
My guest has a guest today.
Do what?
Wonderful.
No, I just said my guest today has a guest.
Oh, okay. Basically, let me just put something out there just kind of in general. Everybody is, first of all, just use your common sense. Everybody's going just, and I'm going to tell you, as a nurse, Dallas dropped the ball. But what's fixing to happen is it's fixing to get worse because the flu season is going to hit. So now everybody with a fever, and see, not every, but most viruses all present the same. Whether it's H1N1, the flu, or whatever, you got aches and pains all over, general malaise, fever, yada, 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 and everybody's going to freak out, and they're going to think they have Ebola. Now, let me back up a little bit from here. I have seen so much crap on Facebook tonight about every cure in the world. All I can tell people is do some research. It does not take, you can Google anything. Just put it in the search bar. You can find out anything you want to know. Everything from drinking colloidal silver. Now, one guy's putting out that you need to inject bleach.
Oh, my God.
200 milliliters. 200 milliliters. Drink 200 milliliters of bleach. And I'm like, are you crazy? Why are you putting that out there? Now, I, for one, I believe we can all boost our immune systems. That's no guarantee it's going to help. But all I want to implore on everyone is learn what a virus is, number one. What is a virus? Number two, how a virus works. And then once you get the basics, then go study Ebola. Ebola is a whole big, huge, different virus than, say, flu, just for instance, okay, as an example. You have to learn how it reacts to your body. You have to learn how it attacks your cells. You have to learn. You just need to learn. You spend your time doing a little bit of studying instead of just, going crazy and posting everything under the sun. And yes, vitamin C is helpful for your immune system. So is vitamin D3. Your B vitamins are good. Basically, all your vitamins are good. There's also some studies on hemp oil. Hemp oil may have some beneficial effects. I just encourage everybody to do their own research and, just please stop putting this person put this stuff out there about injecting bleach, and I'm like going crazy.
Do not inject bleach into you.
People need to calm down, do their own research. By all means, we should be boosting our immune systems anyway because it's flu season. What they have found out in older people, the older you get, your body does not, I can't think of the right word. Your body doesn't basically hold your vitamins as well as when you're younger. That's not the correct terminology, but that's the only thing I can think of. So as you get older, your vitamin C levels, your vitamin D levels, all these levels go down. Your T cells, all that starts kind of going down as you get older. So I'm not saying boost your immune system is going to keep you from getting Ebola, but it sure as heck can't hurt. So everybody needs to be proactive, not panic, do your research, eat healthy, take your vitamins. By all means, bleach is one of the few things that does kill Ebola and HIV. Clean your countertops with bleach, But I'm going to tell you one thing I did find out today. Those little Clorox wipey things you get in a little container and you pop out the container? Well, yeah. I always thought that, that was bleach. So I went to buy some today, and there's no bleach in them. So, and they only kill 99% of viruses. So, therefore, my theory on the bleachy wipe things is out the window. But here's the thing. There's a difference between antiviral, antibacterial, germicides, yada, yada, yada. And people need to know the difference. What might kill a staph infection is not going to kill Ebola. It is not going to kill HIV. The only thing I'm telling you as a nurse is people, you need to do your own research. You need to calm down. And every stupid thing you see on Facebook, you don't need to believe it. You need to do your own research. That's my nursing statement of the evening.
Cool.
All right. That's all I got to say.
Bleach
Go ahead, Julia.
Bleach is extremely toxic. That's got me bugging out here. People suggesting that they inject bleach in themselves. Don't do that. You will kill yourself.
And drink it. 200 milliliters.
And don't drink it.
200 milliliters is a lot.
No, but if you use like 2 tablespoons of bleach in 5 gallons of water or 2 gallons of water, whatever the ratio is, that's not going to kill you. And if you drink it slowly, have a couple of sips here and a couple of sips
Joanne,
there. That won't kill you. But not injecting bleach, that's crazy.
I would not even put that out there. You cannot put out stuff like that because you're dealing with a whole bunch of people that have absolutely no common sense that think more is better. So if they think taking 2 aspirin or 2 Tylenol is good, then they're going to take 15 Tylenol. The general public has no common sense. No common sense. So, and that's just my whole point tonight. Intelligent people need to do their own research. Because
what about hand sanitizer? What about hand sanitizer, the alcohol base? Is that any value?
It's valuable to some viruses, but it's not going to hurt. It's not going to help you with Ebola or AIDS. It's alcohol based.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. You need to do your own research because, from what I know, bleach kills Ebola and bleach kills AIDS. All these other viruses may be killed by germicides and antiviral this and that and the other, but AIDS and Ebola are a different animal. It's a different virus.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole different animal, so to speak. They're all viruses. Yeah. And all viruses, not all. I don't want to use the word all because that's too whatever. But the majority of viruses present the same. You get flu-like symptoms. You ache. You hurt all over. You get a fever, headache, feel like crap, yada, yada, yada. So, and who knows what strain of flu we'll have this year. Every year we get a new strain, so there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, so then, just go into it healthy, and boosting your immune system can't hurt. And if you do get sick, it might help you get through it. Might not kill you, but it...
Just stick with, for now, unless you're directly exposed to something, just stick with your basic principles. Good hand washing, and I don't mean antibacterial soap every time you wash your hands. Just plain old soap. Cover your mouth. Don't sneeze on people. Don't cough on people. All the same stuff we've all known for years. For starters, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, well, that's good advice. But, Ebola, we don't know what it's going to do. But we should be containing it. We should be stopping these flights. We should be securing the border. We should, we should be suspending visits from Liberia, at least for a few weeks. Take a month off of these tourists coming in, just to make sure that that's contained. You don't contain a disease by letting everybody spread all over the world. That's the opposite of contain.
Let me just say one more thing, and then I'm going to get out of this conversation.
Okay.
I worked ERs for 25 years. In a normal United States environment, when the flu season hits, most ERs and hospitals in this day and age are not even capable of handling a big flu outbreak. What happens is you present to the ER, you got flu. You need to be admitted. There's no beds on the floor. So you're stuck in the ER till a bed comes available on the floor. Then you're sent to the floor. If you're an ICU patient and you've been graded down to the floor, then you're stuck in the ICU because you can't get a floor bed. Meanwhile, people pile up in the waiting room. The last big flu epidemic, people were stuck at home for a week waiting on a bed to get into the hospital. So that is just the flu. So I guess you can see where I'm going here. And now, if all these people in all these other countries think that they can fly to the U.S. because we have such excellent health care, not even to mention what Obamacare has done to our health care, we won't even start that conversation. Our medical hospitals are not equipped staff-wise, and isolation room-wise, and every other-wise to handle this. And that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, well, you better learn how to take care of yourself. When they had that big H1N1 flu outbreak, There were tons of people down here in Florida who got really, really sick. They ended up setting up a triage tent, like a MASH tent, outside the hospital down here. And we're not even letting flu patients near the emergency room. Trauma was allowed there, but no viruses. You had to go to that tent.
Let me just say one more thing, because this Dallas deputy thing's really got me bugged. Now, he knew he was exposed. He was at home. The proper thing for him to do would have been to call 911 and say, I am so-and-so. I was exposed to Duncan on such and such a date. I have these symptoms. He was not in any kind of life-threatening emergency. 911 could have, even if it took them 2 hours, could have prepared special ambulance or whatever, could have notified the receiving hospital, and even like I said, if it took 2 hours to get the ambulance prepared and everybody notified, 2 hours was not going to make any difference in this guy's care. Then they could have gone to his house, they could have got him, they could have took all these precautions. But nope, he walks into an urgent care and exposes all these people, allegedly.
Yeah, tell them what the guy and his son did.
Do what?
Tell him what the guy and his son did with the mask and the.
Oh, yeah. There's this guy in the urgent care for a flu shot, and him and his son went and hid in the exam room, and they found some masks in the exam room, and then they found a can of disinfectant, and they sprayed themselves all with it, which, may or may not done any good at all, but at least the guy was using some common sense. But all I got to say is, if you really, really, really think you're exposed to Ebola, do not walk into an emergency room and do not walk into a clinic. Call 911, give them all the details, give them time to prepare to come get you. That's all I'm saying.
And then they can move you.
In a proper way. All right, I'm going to give you the show back. I'm going to give you all the show back. I've said enough.
Well, thank you,
all right.
JoJo.
Well, thank you, JoJo.
All right, I'm going to mute myself. Thank y'all.
All right, I got you. Hey, we have a caller from Las Vegas named Jim. He wants to join us.
Hey, Jim, welcome.
Hello, Patriot News? Hello?
Close. Freedomizer News. Freedomizer Radio.
Oh. I got to tell you, I know it was a little shaky at the start, but seeing Brady the way he came out this week, he had heart. And as long as Gronk stays healthy with these receivers and this offensive line, I think they got it.
Oh, I thought you had a different topic, Jim. I'm sorry.
It's your boy!
All right. That's all right.
I missed them.
I just wanted to call him out real quick and see what he would do. I had a feeling that wasn't going to be going anywhere, but now I know his number, so he's going to have a hard time trying to call in on my show now.
Goodbye, Jimmy Timmy.
Bye, honey.
He didn't even know what network he was on, so that was half the battle, I thought.
Yep. Hey, want to switch topics here for a second?
Sure.
Have fun.
All right. Well, it's kind of I got a couple topics here lined up that they lead into each other. I wanted to start with ISIS, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. It's now ISIL, the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. The Levant is actually the Ottoman Empire, and this caliphate is trying to recreate that. Now, we are at war. I know Obama said, we're not going to have any boots on the ground and things like that. Well, that's not how you run a war. First of all, you never tell the enemy what you're not going to do. That's like saying, okay, we're going to get in a fight, but I'm going to hit you with my right, and I'm going to hit you 10 times. I'm not going to use my left. I mean, that's just stupid. However, these ISIS have now moved all through Iraq and Syria, and they're in other places too. But we are arming them. We were arming the opposition, which were supposedly moderate Islamists. Well, the moderate Islamists ended up being Al-Qaeda, and they joined with these ISIS factions. They signed a cooperation agreement that they weren't going to fight with each other and they were going to go after Assad up in Syria. Putin told Obama, don't even think about coming into Syria and trying to get rid of Assad. So you can do operations in here, but it's only against ISIS. Do you know Obama's doing like 12 strikes a week when he should be doing like 200 a day. If you're only going to use your air power, then use it. 8 strikes, that's not going to do anything. He tells them in advance that he's coming. He ends up blowing up empty buildings, jeeps, things like that. ISIS ended up with a whole new a whole fleet of brand new Toyotas that were given to the Iraqi government. Well, there were photographs of those brand new jeeps from the United States all over the place with ISIS flags all over them. The hardware, the ammunition they're using, also came from the United States. One hand is washing the other, or as our friend Ulsterman said, one hand cuts off the other. We are depending on people like Qatar. Qatar is one of the biggest supporters of these Islamics, this caliphate. They get money hand over fist. When we released those 5 Taliban prisoners to Qatar, they were received with heroes welcome. They never spent a minute in custody. They were just set free. The same with al-Baghdadi, the guy who was in charge of ISIS. All right, so we're not really fighting them. Our allies are actually our frenemies. The Saudis and the Qataris and the Turks, they were all arming these people to go against Assad. And now they got to fight these people that they already armed. This is so out of control. This is a war that we have entered, and we have no intention on winning. This was just to say that he was doing something. There's people being slaughtered over there for their religion, for their beliefs, and this is definitely a caliphate. Our president has done more for that Islamic caliphate than Muhammad himself. All right, so now that I'm done with that, there is a boy, 19 years old. He's a suburban Chicagoite. He attempted to support terrorism, told his parents he was going to Syria to join the Islamic State. He was upset about what he considered a moral Western society, all that stuff. The kid's 19 years old. He was flying from Chicago to Turkey. He was going to meet up with somebody in Turkey, and then he was going to move on into Syria. Well, the kid actually didn't get out of O'Hare Airport. They arrested him. He was nabbed by the FBI, the Joint Terrorism Task Force. Now they're trying to strip him of his citizenship. Now, the kid hasn't, although he's probably a screwed-up kid, he hasn't committed any crime, has he? He didn't actually get to join ISIS. He didn't actually get to leave Chicago. He made it to the airport. Now they got him in jail, and they're talking about stripping his citizenship. How can we allow that? Do you know if we allow them to strip one citizen's citizenship, and he hasn't even committed a crime, we can't make rules for one citizen. These rules are for everybody. So he hasn't been even convicted or even had a trial. And don't get me wrong. I'm not sticking up for this kid. He's probably a little puke as far as I know. Wants to, talk trash about the United States, wants to join ISIS. Those are not good things. Just like that Al-Awlaki kid, 16 years old, he went to look for his father, and we killed him with a drone. He didn't have a trial. He didn't even have any charges against him. He was never even accused of being a terrorist. When Robert Gibbs was asked why we droned that kid, Robert Gibbs said he should have had a better father. Yeah, lots of us should have had a better father, but that doesn't mean you can kill an American citizen without due process. And then Eric Holder, our Attorney General, said, well, we don't need due process. He had an executive review. Since when does an executive review constitute due process? We have a whole bunch of amendments. 6th, 7th, and 8th say that you have a right to a fair trial, to face your accuser, probable cause. The 4th Amendment for search and seizure. That kid didn't get anything. A couple of guys got together at the White House and said, yeah, let's kill him. They killed his father, too. I mean, they had been tracking this kid. It wasn't like they couldn't have just picked him up and arrested him. So now they're talking about stripping people's citizenship. We let them get away with killing Americans, and now they're talking about stripping your citizenship. That should be next to impossible. Never mind just on a whim. I even see people on the conservative stations, like the 5, saying, oh, yeah, strip his passport, strip his citizenship. How dare you? That's got to go in front of a judge. You don't get to make that call. But they are. And then that leads me to this final one I wanted to bring up. This is actually a two-part thing. There's a young girl. Her name is Justina Pelletier. She was from Connecticut. She has a disease called mitochondrial disease. She was kidnapped by the state of Massachusetts. Her family brought her to Tufts University to see this doctor that she had been seeing right along. The doctor had transferred over to Boston Children's Hospital, which is run by Harvard University. So they brought the young girl over to see the doctor at Children's from Tufts. When they got over to Children's, she never did get to see her own doctor. She was seen by a doctor who was only a doctor for 9 months in the emergency room. Mm-hmm. He decided that the parents were unfit, that they were like doctor shopping, because they didn't, agree with what he had to say. The guy said she didn't have mitochondrial disease, that she had some other disease. So they ended up kidnapping this young girl from her parents for 18 months. 18 months that young girl languished like a little lab rat in Boston Children's Hospital. This mitochondrial disease, it's a genetic disease, and she has some of the most pure DNA known. She only got DNA from her mother. So with her mitochondrial disease, her DNA is worth its weight in gold for things like cloning medicines. I mean, when you do cloning, you have to strip out all the DNA. This is already done for them. It's in a perfect way, too. It's a natural way. It's not something that they have to strip out. It's already there. So they kept this young girl. They put her into this like a lab rat, a study program, unbeknownst to her family. The state of Massachusetts had literally tortured this kid. She couldn't see her family. She couldn't go home for Christmas. They wouldn't even let her friends in. She wrote a note to her mother, so they took away her computer access. This girl was 16 years old when they finally got her back, which took, protests and lawsuits and everything else. Well, now, this doctor who treated that young girl and hightailed it out of Boston because of all the lawsuits ends up in Phoenix. Well, there's 2 young girls in Phoenix, 2 little girls, sisters, 12 and 10. Now, those 2 little girls have been kidnapped. The same doctor, but now this is going on in Phoenix. Their names are Kayla and Hannah Deagle, and they've both been diagnosed with a rare form of genetic mitochondrial disorder. And now they took these children away from their parents. The parents have never been accused of being neglectful or harmful to the children or any type of a threat. And they're doing the same thing. So now this government can take away your children and use them as lab rats. And let me tell you something. There is big, big bucks in these kids' DNA. So our government's killing our citizens, killing underage kids, a 16-year-old boy, kidnapping a girl. She was 15 at the time. She didn't get out of the hospital till she was 16. Almost killed her. And now they've just kidnapped 2 more. And it's the same doctor. And it's the same disease. What's going on with us? Why are we allowing all of this?
Well, my
when
question
your children are not your own?
On this, Joanne, is what separates us from from Nazi Germany of 80 years ago?
You're right. This is very Hitler-esque. I mean, just pulling kids out of their homes, taking them away from everything they know just so they can be lab rats. One little girl, one of the older ones, said, please don't forget me, and my sister's doing worse than me, and I've lost 25% of my body weight, and I don't think my sister's going to make it. And then they took away her access. Then they took away her access to the computer. She can't even write notes to her mother anymore.
What?
Meanwhile, these parents have never been accused of doing any wrongdoing whatsoever.
They're basically doing
and they get rewarded.
Oh, yeah, they're going to get rewarded handsomely for this.
And they're doing things to the children without the parents' consent. I mean,
yeah, they're taking custody away from the parents so that the state has custody. And then they're using the children as lab rats. If something happens to these kids, the state's not going to sue itself. But if something happened to the kid in the parents' care, the parents can sue the state. So they've stolen the kids, taken away any possibility of a lawsuit, and they're just using the kids for lab rats. They're not in school. They don't have any tutors. They're not allowed visits. They're in locked wards. I mean, that they are literally hostages. And this is the second and third, not the first. You know, this is a pattern now, and it's the same doctor. You know, once is a fluke, two, it's a pattern.
So what's going to happen here? You said the parents can't sue the state?
No. Now they have to come up with all kinds of lawyers. The Pelletier family was completely bankrupted by having to pay for all the lawyers and stuff. They finally got their daughter back, but it took them 18 months and almost killed the girl. The girl was in ice skating competitions before they took her. When they gave her back, she was in a wheelchair, couldn't even stand up, and had lost most of her hair.
Oh, no.
And they took out her feeding tube. She had sepsis around the feeding tube. One time when they did allow the parents to visit, the little girl raised her hand up to hug her father, and the mother noticed that the child's stomach was completely inflamed and had gangrene all around it. So the kid ended up having to, go through a whole regimen, and, she had a staph infection and everything. They didn't even know it. The mother brought it to the doctor, to the people's attention. They had cops in the room when the parents were visiting. These parents were not violent. And court after court after court visit. And they begged Governor Patrick to, give this kid back or step in or do something. So they finally won the court case, and they brought the kid back to the state of Connecticut, and they put her in a home. She was there for about a week, and then they finally let the kid go home. The state of Connecticut did. And I'm sure that family will never set foot in Massachusetts again. But, what's this kid going to do? Who's going to take care of this kid? And, now they just got two more little lab rats. And it's the same doctor.
So, wow.
So I wanted to bring that up, too. This is what they're doing to us. They're stripping citizenship. They're killing Americans. They're kidnapping the kids. What is going on? They're sending our soldiers over to fight Ebola. How do you fight Ebola if you're a soldier? The first they said that they were just going to be building MASH tents and for patients. Now, yesterday, actually late last night, Obama said, they will have contact with Ebola patients. He's really trying to sink us. I said he's turned the United States into a hallway. Our Constitution is violated nonstop. This guy just thinks he can do anything. And our elected representatives are not stopping him, and our courts are not stopping him. And we're not stopping him. Where are we? Why are we? I don't know what's the matter with us. I look out, and everybody's just going to get their nails done and having dinner, and I look on Facebook, and if I see another person's lunch, I'm going to gag. How many times can you see a cheeseburger platter?
Oh, goodness.
Well, if it's a McDonald's hamburger that's been out since 1996, I'm okay to look at that.
Yeah, well, it hasn't changed. Unreal.
So, Joanne, you said you start next week with us again.
I do. Yes. We start next week at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And like I said, we do fast-paced news. I'm way too ADD for any type of long story, so we bounce around. But we do current events. We do things of national interest. We do constitutional stuff, patriot news. We do a lot of investigative reports, too. We do our own investigations. Like I said, we have a complete team now of colleagues, researchers, and correspondents, and everybody brings something to the table. So if there's something going on out there, we know about it. If you listen to our show, what you'll hear on our show, you won't hear on mainstream media for maybe a week or two after. All of our old listeners will know that. Every single thing we said was going to happen has happened, and the things we said that will be long-term, they're already coming to fruition. So, our old listeners will know that, and our new listeners would love to invite you and join in our conversation. The more, the merrier. We got to share the information. We got to stop fighting with each other. We got to stop with this, left, right, and black, white, and all of that stuff. We're all Americans, and start acting like it. Not everybody's going to agree.
I just can't believe that we still live in a world where, well, I'm going to vote for this party because I refuse to be seen voting for this party.
Last night I heard that on your show.
Yeah, and you saw how quickly they left the show too, right?
I did. I won't cross party lines. What's the matter with you? What do you mean party line? How can you say some party owns you? You'll sit there and you'll complain about Obama and Pelosi or Boehner or, half the people couldn't even identify the names I just mentioned. But then they'll tell you, I'm a lifelong Democrat. I've never voted for a Republican. So then why are you in a conversation with me? I'm trying to tell you something, and it's not Republican or Democrat. This is reality, guys. And if you can't tell the difference, then you got to do a little more research. You can't just say, I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican. No, you're not. You're an idiot.
That is true.
I'm not politically correct, obviously. I'm not correct. I'm not politically anything, except
and
I really
that's
don't like
why
politicians.
We like here.
Yeah, I don't trust politicians. They run around the country with a tin cup. That's their number one job, putting the squeeze on donors.
And upside down tin cup.
Yes, and if any work is getting done at all, it's from their underlings. Because from the day they get elected until the day they get booted, they're on the phone trying to raise money. And they take money from both sides of the issue. Look at the XL pipeline. Look at the XL pipeline. How many people donated to get that passed? And how many donated to not get it passed? And how many of those politicians took money from both sides? So there's your answer. What, whoever donates the most gets the vote?
Yeah.
So why don't we just have an auction?
Maybe we should start having an auction, because that's obviously the only thing that happens anyway.
Yeah, really. Just, put the politicians up on the auction block and then just have everybody bid on them.
That needs to be a headline in a newspaper.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what we're doing. It's just not as blatant as I was. But it's true. And, look at the billions of dollars. And then you got people like Hillary Clinton saying, well, when we left the White House, we were broke. I want to be as rich as she was when she was broke. All right? She didn't know where her next meal was coming from. That's because she had 5 kitchens in different counties. She got 5 houses in all different counties. So, yeah, she didn't know where the meal was coming from because she didn't know what house she was going to be in. I have 1 house and do the best I can to hang on to it. I don't have a $10 million Chappaqua estate. The other one, what's her name? Elizabeth Warren. They say that they would rather have Elizabeth Warren. Yeah, she's another one. She's a fake Indian, all right? She's a full-blown communist. And, her nickname up in Massachusetts is Liawata.
Mm-hmm.
She lied about being Native American so she could get a job at Harvard. So she's a thief, too. She stole that job from an actual Native American. But they let that pass. I don't even know how she got elected. But now she's considering running for president. The next time we get a president, could we at least get one who had a job and, maybe get some papers on him? They're screaming for background checks for guns. We should do one for the president. What is his job? Nothing's his fault. He acts like he just, stumbled into the White House and found out he was president.
Misleading the people, apparently.
Yeah. What he was a rock star. Do you ever see the girl Flo on the Progressive commercials?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, she's the spokesmodel. She doesn't run the company, and that's exactly what Obama is. He's just a little pretty face that smiles and waves at the camera. He's not running the show. He doesn't even go to his briefings. He's only attended 42% of his security briefings, but now he's micromanaging a war. They probably never even let him play Army when he was a kid. And what does he know about running war? He's a community organizer. We should have known. But the media sold him like he was the next best thing. I mean, Justin Bieber didn't get the type of publicity this guy gets.
Here's the other thing, and I don't remember the name of the guy, but I remember watching this video about this man that supposedly like is an actor type of individual who's very has a lot of finesse, you know, and he talks just like Obama. Apparently, he hung out with Obama to learn from the guy, the actor himself.
Okay.
Did you ever hear about that?
No, but
if you want to research it, Google it or something. I have to do the same, but I was watching this video and the guy is seriously like is an Obama.
Yeah.
Apparently Obama was an understudy, like an understudy of the guy, because the guy has so much finesse. He has so much, like, he talks and the whole room listens type of thing.
Oh, I get it. All right, I will look that up. Yeah, I get what you're saying. But yeah, I mean, he's very articulate. He reads well out loud. I don't know anybody who can read a teleprompter like that guy. Take him off the teleprompter, though. He's a bumbling idiot. Me, my, I. Unless, of course, it's something that he has to take responsibility for, and then it's somebody else's fault. You know, I mean, that gets old, too. It's like talking to a 4-year-old. You know, did you break the vase? No. Who did it? Tommy. You know? Unreal. I can't understand why we have put up with this. I can't understand why Eric Holder isn't behind bars. You know, he's being held in contempt of court, contempt of Congress. But a court wouldn't hold him in contempt the other day. They told him to get off those paperwork for the Fast and Furious that he claimed executive privilege on. I got a question for everybody. He's the Attorney General, and yes, it is a cabinet position. But how can you claim executive privilege if what the paperwork has doesn't involve the president? So obviously the president was involved in Fast and Furious, right?
I don't know the legality or the legalese on that, unfortunately, but I think you're right.
Yeah. You know, you have to, it has to involve the president to claim executive privilege, or it's not the executive. End of story. You know, that's just it. So, of course, it involves the president. What it involves, actually, is they don't want to tell us that they gave every one of those drug cartel members immunity and allowed them to carry on their illegal businesses in exchange for them ratting on the other cartels. So this was a gun running, just like Iran-Contra was, just like the stuff Brzezinski was doing down in South America. They were arming one faction against another faction. That's what they did in Syria. They've been doing it right along. Those guns from Libya ended up in Syria from the transnationals that Obama had put into Libya.
Right.
And they picked up 600 of them and dropped them in Syria.
Speaking about the Middle East, what do you think of what Joe Biden got caught saying, and how is that playing in the Middle East?
Well, he's right. Joe Biden is right. Joe Biden said that our allies were supplying the enemy. Yes, they were. He's right. The Saudis were. The Qataris were. The Turks were. The Iranians offered to help us fight them, but, you know, we don't need the Iranians. We shouldn't even be doing business with the Iranians. You know, I mean, it's ridiculous. We are arming the people that we are fighting, and we're not putting boots on the ground. So we're just using air power, and these people on the ground that are pulling this caliphate and killing the Christians and killing the Kurds, killing the Yazidis, I mean, doing the beheadings. I mean, every week lately there's been a beheading by these ISIS people of Americans and Brits and whatever. They just killed an American the other day. But we're still sending them weapons. We even did a supply drop, and the supplies ended up getting dropped on the ISIS side of the battlefield instead of on the opposition side. So they never even got the supplies, the meals, the bullets, none of that, the blankets, tents. All that stuff was supposed to be for the opposition, but they dropped it in behind enemy lines. That's no accident. There's no such thing as an accident. You know, you're up there in a plane. You have your coordinates. You know where you're supposed to be. You got GPS. I mean, it's not like they're reading her off of a map on the back of a matchbook.
And we're definitely not saying here that we support any of these wars whatsoever, because we don't.
Right.
You know,
he won't even call it a war, honey.
We don't need this. It's a tactic and a method, once again, that is used by manipulating the minds of the people through the media to allow them to think that there's an actual problem going on, or making something bigger than what it needs to be, so that we can be the ever-so power to supposedly save or do whatever it is that we're supposed to do. But really, it's trying to take over that specific place. It's a chessboard game that is continually occurring.
It's all fake. Putin got to sell his weapons to Assad. Putin's happy. Assad gets to stay in power because Putin said, you're not getting him out of power. You can, play your little ISIS games, but you're not getting rid of Assad. So Assad gets to stay. The Saudis, they get what they want. The Saudis are Sunnis. So they're expanding the caliphate. ISIS gets what they want. They've already got all the weapons and stuff. The Turks get to keep their smuggling routes open. They get to get the cheap oil, the smuggled oil, for $40 a barrel instead of $120 like the rest of us are paying. So they're happy. And Iran gets to keep its nukes. The only one who's not happy in this whole deal is Israel. Nothing is going to become of this. This is all a facade. It's all a game. And I just told you the outcome.
It's all about the power of who has the most money, who has the most this, who has the most that, who's going to control this, who's going to control that.
Well, we have deals with the Saudis, and Valerie Jarrett was up in Qatar making all kinds of deals up there. She was having secret meetings for the last 5 years up there. John Kerry's been having secret meetings. So everybody's happy. You know, the $6 billion deal that the Qataris just got from us. The Saudis, they get to the protection because Obama rents them our military, so they're not in trouble. Iran, then they're going to get to keep their nukes. Turkey gets to be king of the caliphate because they're the sneaky ones. They're the most two-faced of all. And that's where the most trouble is coming out of. So everybody's happy but Israel, including Obama. So this is all fake. And he wanted to get rid of our Tomahawk missiles. He's dropping Tomahawk missiles on Jeeps. Why do you need a Tomahawk missile for a Jeep? I mean, shouldn't that be for a whole, building complex or something, one of those? And they're not getting replaced. So he's actually just getting rid of old ordinances. It's not a war. This is just, you're right, it's a chess game. And we're the suckers it's our soldiers that are going to end up dead. The same with the Ebola. It's our soldiers that are going to end up dead. How come we have to go running over to Africa? I saw a tweet today that said, life in Africa is just as important as life in America. Yes, it is. But shouldn't the life in Africa be important to the Africans? Just like the life in America is important to America? We don't have to go running to everybody's aid. We do. And it's the nice thing to do. But, when you're standing there demanding and then saying our response is racist because it's Africa, you know how much money we've sent to Africa?
Not really.
Well, believe me, it's in the billions and trillions. We have been in Africa for maybe 50 years. We have giant corporations there. We have gold mines there. We do the mining. We pay for, the taxes and the royalties and stuff. But, there's a lot of American technology over there. Africa is absolutely gorgeous. Just like Mexico is absolutely gorgeous. They have everything from, fresh water and fertile land and abundance of everything. Natural minerals, things like that. So that's why there's a big interest over there. But, we're not neglecting Africa. But it's also not our responsibility. We do it as a courtesy, not because we're obligated to. And the same thing with the UN and NATO. You don't see anybody, you know, in a hurry to send their own people in there. The Europeans said, no, I'm not sending anyone. Israel said, yeah, right. I don't think so. So it's us and the Brits. Where are all these African countries? Africa is a continent, not a country. There's a whole bunch of countries over there. And what are they doing? You know, we're being had. We're being chumped all around. And it's always the American taxpayer who's footing the bill for all of it. You know,
well, let me go backwards to Syria. What people don't realize is that these quote-unquote Syrian moderates is Al-Qaeda.
Mm-hmm.
So we're funding Al-Qaeda to go beat up on ISIS.
Yeah. What is this? Obama got a new name for them, Khorasan. We never even heard of Khorasan. That's core Al-Qaeda. That's a made-up name. Khorasan is core Al-Qaeda. But he doesn't want us to know that we're fighting Al-Qaeda in Syria. No, we're fighting Al-Qaeda in Iraq, but we're funding Al-Qaeda in Syria. But Al-Qaeda in Syria and Al-Qaeda in Iraq are with ISIS in their little agreement they made. So we're funding them and fighting them. We're not fighting them. We're not fighting them at all. This caliphate is expanding exponentially.
So let me ask a stupid question here. So what would be the huge benefit for us to not know that we have Al-Qaeda fighting Khorasan and ISIS? And I don't even know the difference between ISIS and ISIL.
Well, they're actually the same people. Obama calls them ISIL because ISIL is, the L is for the Levant. The Levant is an area that covers all of the Middle East, part of Europe, and most of Africa. It was back in the 6th century, the Ottoman Empire. And that's what they're trying to recreate. And you got people telling us, oh, well, you know, us interfering in the Middle East is what's causing these people to be terrorists. These people have been fighting for 14 centuries, long before there was a United States. And they'll be fighting for another 14 centuries. They're different factions of Islam. Islam is the common denominator. You know, I'm not saying it like I'm an Islamophobe. I'm an Islamo-realist. This is the reality. Read the Quran. They're supposed to kill us. Their Prophet Muhammad cannot return until the entire globe is Muslim. So, to Muslims, dying for Allah is the most glorifying thing you can do on this earth. That's a goal to achieve. They love their religion more than they love themselves and their children. And they're promised a better reward on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're dealing with fanatics like that, who it's more important to die for a cause than it is to live for it. You know, there is no conversation. There's no conversation that can be had. There's no compromise. So what do you do about it? You know, what would you do if you had an infestation of cockroaches? You'd have to exterminate, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, and I'm not saying it to be a bigot or anything else. I'm trying to be real here. This is reality. This is what's going on. You know, like these Islamists, how do you think liberal women would fare in one of these Sharia countries? They'd be killed. You know, and this is actually the perfect thing for the New World Order if you want to go there. What could be more perfect to control the world than a self-policing society? The men control the women and children brutally. The imams control the men. So all the New World Order has to do is control the imams, and the rest falls into place. It's perfect. There's no gays, there's no Jews, there's no Christians, there's no insolent women or children, there's no infidels, there's no atheists. All these people all those groups I just mentioned, the ones that are sticking up for them, would be the first to go. They crucify gays. They bring them into the middle of the square and hang them. But they abuse them first. The same with women. They bury them up to their chest and stone them if they are uncooperative, or if they need to be honor killed. They don't think twice about it. Children, a little boy, a street kid, was shown with his arm being held underneath the tire of a Jeep because he had stolen a loaf of bread. They are brutal over there. Like Rosie O'Donnell, Whoopi Goldberg. Do you think that anybody would put up with those two over there? But they're the first ones that'll come out. Ben Affleck got in a big thing with Bill Maher, and I can't stand either one of them. But he got in a big row about Islam, and he was saying, they're bigots, and, he just tore into it. And everybody was saying, what did he convert? No. He works for Miramax. Cutter bought Miramax in 2010. So what's he going to go against the boss? The boss owns him, owns his past and future rights to his movies. Of course, Ben Affleck's going to stick up for Islam. Yeah, well, I'm tolerant, and I love diversity. If we were all the same, it would be very boring. However,
right.
Your religion, you want to have a religion, fine. You don't want to have a religion, that's just fine, too. But if your religion says that you got to go around killing people because they don't believe in your religion,
exactly.
That's not a religion, that's a cult. And then I'll have no respect. You don't have an obligation to be anybody's victim or serf or anything else. They do their own thing, you do your own thing, and everybody will be cool with it. But when they start pushing you around and they start saying you got to believe this or, convert or die, well, then it's on, honey. You don't have the response. You don't have the power to tell somebody that they have to believe what you believe or you're going to kill them. And it works both ways. Nobody has the power to tell you have to believe in what they believe in or they're going to kill you. Because then you have a right to self-defense.
Exactly.
Christians don't, a lot of Christians say, turn the other cheek. Well, you only have two. So when you turn it once, you're already on the second one. Then you got to stand up and just say, no, I'm not going to die for you. And my family's not going to die for you. And my country's not going to be invaded by you. And if Sharia is so great, why did you leave a Sharia country to come here?
Exactly.
And you're not turning our country into a Sharia country. We are the land of the free. You're free to practice your Sharia all you want in your life. But don't try to push it on me.
Right.
That's
and the other thing is that the reality of it all is that we're humans born onto an earth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I understand that there are rules put into place here in the United States to help keep certain things in order, but all in all, we're still people. We're still free people with human rights. We don't need to be slaves to some sort of government or whatever just because they want us to be that way. No, we are our own people.
You just touched on another important thing, too. Your rights are your own. All our rights, all men are created equal. Our rights are individual, not collective. When Obama says things like the collective rights, no, we don't have a collective right. You have a right to believe what you want to believe. You have Miranda rights. You have a Bill of Rights. Every bit of it is just specifically for you, and it's just specifically for me. What I do has no bearing on you, and same vice versa. So when they're trying to strip your rights for the good of all, no, don't let them do that. And like I said, you just do your own thing. You have the right to your liberty. You don't have the right to impose your liberty on others. They have a right to liberty, too. And if people actually read our Constitution and understood it, they would know that. We don't have a democracy. We have a republic. And a lot of, Obama has never called us a republic, not even once.
No.
Mm-hmm.
So, people, they don't even teach that anymore in school.
That's true.
So,
if anything, if you try to ask questions about it, if the teacher's not allowed to talk about it, the teacher will literally tell you, I can't talk about that. It's outside of the scope of what we're supposed to teach you here in school. Literally.
Sounds pretty Stalin-esque to me. They can't tell you about the Revolutionary War and the Whigs and Tories, and they can't tell you about all the history that we've had through the years, the greatness of this country. Yes, this country is great. This country is exceptional. Everything this country has, this country earned. We didn't steal it from anybody. We created it. We invented it. We improved on it. We mass marketed it. Yeah, we made a few bucks at it. There's nothing wrong with that. And then they attack the rich. Doesn't everybody want to be rich? I never aspired to be poor. I want everyone to be wealthy. Like these McDonald's, these protests for $15 an hour. McDonald's was never supposed to be a career. It was supposed to be a stepping stone. That's why they hired young people. That was actually in their business plan to teach young people skills. So now they're going to make $15 an hour for what? Flipping a burger when they can be replaced by a kiosk? If you can press a picture of a cheeseburger on a register, the customer can push a picture of a cheeseburger on a board and order their own meal. They don't need you. So, it's not that big of a job. But then, I had somebody, my uncle is a liberal, and he says, well, it's not a living wage. They don't pay a living wage. And I said, so what? What difference does it make? I said, if you don't, they didn't go out there with a lasso and drag you in and make you work at McDonald's. He said, well, there's no other jobs around. And I said, that's a lame argument, too. How is that McDonald's fault? McDonald's is offering a job. This is what they're paying. Take the job or don't take the job. People just think they're so irreplaceable. Everybody gets a trophy. Well, when you get out in the real world, that's not how it is. You screwed your kids all their life by giving everybody a trophy and an award for showing up instead of excellence and striving to be excellent and being the best person you can be. And if you fail, don't be afraid. Get the help and don't fail next time. You can't even fail if you don't try, right?
Exactly.
And you might succeed. Everything's so screwed up. Well, for anybody who didn't listen to our show before, or just listen in now, we will attack the controversial subjects, won't we?
Oh, I'm okay with that.
We talked about racism. We talked about bigotry. We talked about religion. We talked about war. We talked about disease. We just jump in and talk about all of it. Not everybody's going to agree with us. And not everybody's going to disagree with us. But, put it out there, and, it is what it is.
Keep an open mind and just know that every day is changing, and you might just change your mind, too.
Right. And we've come a long way, and a lot of things have happened, and people should be smarter now. Anybody who wasn't awake is now, and anybody who's not awake, they're lying. It's willful denial. Well, I've talked your ear off. I've been here for 2 hours instead of 1.
Yeah, I know. I didn't expect that, but that's okay. We got just enough time left to ask you to once again promote yourself and let everybody know when you're going to be on.
Okay, we can do that. I am Anne Moretti, and I am a freedomizer. I've been a freedomizer. Took a little hiatus, but I'm back. We'll be back next Wednesday, the 15th of October at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be here every Wednesday from that point on. Want to invite you all to check out the show. The name of the show is Zone 13. It features me, Joanne Moretti, my co-host, Scott Ferrarello, and our whole lineup of correspondents. It's going to be the best 90 minutes of news and information on the web. And like I said, we offer a mix of fast-paced breaking news and current events, national interest, politics, medical and financial, investigative reports, and always constitutional conflicts, along with our own brand of commentary on all the issues, too. So we're sometimes controversial, and we are really politically correct.
Well, that's all right. I'm thankful to have you back. Welcome aboard again, Joanne, and thank you for being here tonight. And thank you, Cecilia, for doing such a great job tonight.
Thank you, Cecilia. Thank you, Joanne.
In the meantime, hold on to the handrail, keep hope alive, and remember, only you can prevent forest fires.